What you are looking at here is the unfinished basement of Mitt Romney's son's house in the town of Belmont, Massachusetts. That right there is where Mitt Romney says he and his wife lived back then after selling their own home just around the corner. The former governor of Massachusetts living in an unfinished basement. Believing that Mitt Romney was living in his son's basement is key right now to believing that Mitt Romney did not commit voter fraud when he voted for Scott Brown in that special election in January. This week, one of Mr. Romney's lesser-known opponents for the Republican presidential nomination, a man named Fred Karger, asked Massachusetts to investigate whether Mr. Romney was legally able to vote in that election, since he appeared to be taking up permanent residence at one of his multi-million-dollar homes in California or New Hampshire and not in his son's unfinished basement, which was the address at which he was registered to vote. The law in Massachusetts makes it clear that your residence for voting purposes must be where you dwell. The law says it must be the center of your domestic, social, and civil life. If Mitt Romney registered to vote from an address that wasn't really where he lived, that wasn't really the center of his life, that would be illegal. So it may be a marginal issue to his politics and his ambition, but there ought to be at least an explanation here. It does seem fair to ask if Mitt Romney was lying when he said his residence of his life was his son's unfinished basement and none of his actual homes. It seems reasonable to ask that question. It seems reasonable to ask, apparently, unless you are a Massachusetts election official. Almost immediately after this complaint was made and the story went public, election officials in Massachusetts tried to shut it down. A spokesman for the elections division telling the conservative website The Daily Caller, quote, "The time to bring this up was when he voted." We spoke with that same official today who told us definitively, quote, "There will be no investigation."